Welcome to our meeting, which I now declare open. And just a reminder that we are live streaming our meetings tonight. And I'd like to call upon Councillor Barry Winmar to present the Welcome to Country.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet tonight on Noongar country. I'd like to pay respects to elders past and present and the emerging leaders within the community.
And just a reminder,
And I'd like to begin by saying Ngalak Nyining Kurulong, Kurangalak Noich, Nija Nonga Buja. Nonga Mur Jerpan Nyining, Nija Ngalak Wabadak Nonga Buja Kurulong. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Ngala Jerpan Mambat Buja Ngala Babak, Mambat Kwap. Ngala Kot Jerpan Nija Ngala Maya Nyining Noongar Buja. We respect the earth, our mother, and understand we belong to her. She does not belong to us. In all her beauty we find comfort, well-being and life that creates a home for everyone that has become a keeper of Noongar country. Ginidin Karagin Jerpan Nija Wern Noongar Buja Ngala Maya Borda. Look, listen, understand and embrace all the elements of Noongar country that is forever our home. Kai Wanju, Gan Barry Winmar, Wajak Baladong Marman, Gan Kurt Jerpan, Nunuk Nija Noongar Buja, Dajli Wangani Noich Noongar Buja. Hello and welcome. My name is Barry Winmar. I'm a Wajak Baladong man. My heart is happy as we are gathered on Noongar country and speaking here on Noongar country tonight. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Winmar, and I would like to acknowledge that we do meet here on the land of the Noongar people and pay our respects to the elders past, present and those future emerging leaders. Call upon Councillor Kearney to read the dedication.
May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to understand all matters before us with due consideration, integrity and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interest of the greater Kwinana community that we serve.
Thank you. Following last council meeting, I took the opportunity to listen to the recording just to see how it went and how it appeared. And if I could just remind councillors, if you are speaking, to press the button, because there was a couple of times the buttons weren't pressed, so we couldn't actually hear the debate. But other than that, it was great. So, item 4, we have no apologies or leave of absence previously approved. We do have a member of the public, but there's no public questions to be asked. There is nothing in item 6, 6.2 or 6.3. We have the confirmation of our minutes held at our ordinary council meeting on the 13th of April 2022. Would anybody like to speak on those minutes? If not, we have a mover, please. So we'd like to move the minutes. Move Councillor Winmar, seconded to Councillor Rouse. Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, nothing, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Rouse.
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against?
I was supposed to go into hospital on Friday, but the doctor rang up today and said, oh, he's got COVID, so let's put that off. But I don't know if he's going to call up before the next council meeting. So therefore, I don't know whether to put in for leave for a week or two, and hopefully that he'll book me in or leave it.
If you're still undertaking your council duties and you're able to, then I would personally wouldn't put in a leave of absence until such time you notify us, and then you can go on a leave of absence if you're well enough to carry on your duties.
Yes, I am. Yeah,
okay.
I will be shortly.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, item 8. I have a declaration to declare it's an impartiality interest for item 16.1. I'm a member of the South Outer Metropolitan Joint Development Panel, and we will be considering this item in that capacity in due course.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I declare the same interest.
Thank you. Are there any other? Not required. Thank you. Thank you. Item 10, items brought forward nil. There is nothing on 11, 12, 13 or 14. Item 15, 15.1 is our statement of objects and reasons and proposed differential rate and minimum. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. When it comes to the public notice and the opportunity for public feedback, could the city please provide an estimate of how many items of feedback it has received as part of this process in recent years, and what steps have been taken to ensure that during this upcoming notice period that our residents understand how to provide feedback and that they're empowered to do so?
Thank you. When you say how far do you want to go back, I'll defer to the CEO in relation to the rest of the question, which you may have to repeat.
Through you, Madam Chair. So just so I understand, so you're after how much submissions have been received in the past, and then what's the process for people to understand how they are to put submissions in?
Yes, maybe just an estimate of the level of engagement as part of that process from the public.
So how far back do you want to go?
I originally had 5 years, but it's neither here nor there.
Okay. In general, I mean, I'd have to take that on notice to which come through. There is a legislated format that we have to follow in terms of the notification of it, but we also put out information through social media as well, advising of it and encouraging people to put submissions in as well.
And those submissions are outlined in the council item when it comes to council as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Other questions? If not, we have a recommendation. Moved Councillor D. Wood, seconded Councillor Winmar. Councillor Wood, do you wish to speak on the item?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Winmar.
No, thanks, Your Worship.
Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So moved. Thank you. Item 15, 15.2, budget variations. Are there any questions in relation to this item? I have a question, and I'm not sure whether it's rhetorical or not. It's in relation to the 2 body-worn cameras for the City Assist team. I'm assuming that it's similar to the body-worn cameras of the WA they can then download the information on, so that all this, the full fee here is in relation to both parts of the equipment. It's not just the camera.
Through you, Madam Chair. That's correct. So it's the full equipment required to download and then being able to go through and review. The body cam cameras have come out of a review into the incident which occurred when one of our City Assist officers was attacked.
And having visited the... Any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation. Move Councillor Rouse, second Councillor S. Wood. Councillor Rouse, wish to speak on the item?
No, thank you, Your Worship. You've summed it up nicely.
Councillor S. Wood.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. Item 16, 16.1 is the Form 2 amendment to the JDAP approval for a change of use to a shop. Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Understand that there's a reclassification of that site. Just out of interest, is it anything that's connected to the downturn in businesses for that location, for the change, the application for the reclass? And if at all possible, is that going to be in the minds of business owners for the rest of the City of Kwinana?
Thank you. I'm not sure whether we can answer that because it's in the mind of the business owners. I'm not sure. Can we...
Business owners as to the reasons why they're doing it. I guess they are positioning it as to what's the best business for the market for that area.
Thank you, Worship.
Oh. Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Winmar. Deputy Mayor.
Extremely complex, and I guess that this certainly is, it would be a good move considering the a good move for this particular business by way of the fact that the medical centre has closed down in Parmelia. Not such a good move by way of it's one less, another empty tenancy in that particular facility.
I agree. Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, nothing further, Your Worship.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against? Shall I put it to the vote? All in favour? Against? So carried. Item 17.1 is our expenditure of cash in lieu of public open space, and noting that there is an amendment to clause 2. Are there any questions on this item? If not, we have a recommendation. So we'd like to move that with the amendment. Oh, sorry. Moved Councillor Rouse, second Councillor Winmar. Do either councillors wish to speak on this item?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, no, thank you, Your Worship.
Anybody wish to speak? All good. Thank you. Item 17.2 is proposed road names for lot 501 Bertram Road, Wellard. Thank you. Any questions on this item? Do get a bit nervous when we talk about road names. Can be quite subjective.
There's no eagles in this one, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have a recommendation. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate that the and recognition of the passengers on that vessel that arrived and populated the city of Kwinana in those days. I just looked at the background and the justifications for some of the skills and the skill sets that were around it. Just wondering if there's anything further to granulate the experience and the theory, because I understand there's some with professional qualifications that came as attaches with the fleet, and there was also passengers as well, and with children and various other concubines and that along with them to help them to set up settlement in Kwinana.
I'm just wondering, just on that, I'm not sure if the officers can help, but I know when Homestead Ridge was developed by Pete in the early days, every one of those street names were named after a craft, you know, glazier, goldsmith, blacksmith, shipwright, etc. So is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking, Your Worship, in relation to the classifications around that, because there's two of one life in a new colony.
So that's within those proposed names. So I'm not really sure. Sorry, you might just need to clarify, because it's only the names where...
Yeah, thank you, Worship. The further attachment referring to is attachment B, which is extra information in relation to the decisions. It's in reference to on page 61, Your Worship. It says the background, origin, meaning, and justification. Oh, sorry, and justification. You've got C, and it looks like someone has some aristocracy background within those meanings there, Your Worship.
So are you asking for their recognition to be in the officer's report? Or I'm just sorry, I seem to have misunderstood where you're going with it, or you're just making note of that.
No, just making note for consideration for council to be aware that the preferred names, there was two that were of a profession and one that was part of the settlement of coming forward. And I'll just like further consideration for my fellow councillors just to consider the theming around the professional qualifications that sort of come with it in this instance, Your Worship.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions? Thank you. We have a recommendation. Winmar. Second, sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we'll move with an amendment.
Oh, and what is the amendment, please?
Sorry, the amendment would be that we recommend Talbot be removed and substituted with Sampson as part of that grouping, Your Worship.
Talbot and Sampson are in the alternatives.
Sorry, Your Worship. John Holland to be removed. substituted with Lionel Sampson.
So, and the reason being is that Sampson, sorry, you advise the reasons, please. One's pioneer and a merchant.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just in relation to the professional qualifications and the background and the value at the time, I just would like to get my councillors to consider the appropriateness of the qualifications and the background of those particular preferred names with the substitute, so for consideration for it to be more of the theme, aligned with the theme.
So you're moving an
Of a
amendment,
professional.
thank you, that the proposed names now include the name Sampson, and Holland Grove then becomes an alternative name. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you,
Just
Worship.
making sure everyone's clear on that. Well, do we have a seconder? Thank you. Did you wish to speak any further on that, Councillor Winmar?
No, nothing further, Your Worship.
Councillor Wood, D Wood. Anybody wish to speak against the alternative? Not, I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. Ah, we got there in the end. Item 17.3 is the City of Kwinana submission to the Development Assessment Panel reform. Any additional information? If not questions, any additional questions of the officers? It's quite a comprehensive response. Thank you. Would somebody like to move? Thank you. Moved Councillor D Wood, seconded Councillor Brown. Councillor Wood, do you wish to speak on the item?
Yes, Your Worship, just to make the comment, it's a very, very complex and can't remember the right word for it, but it's been very well done by the staff, and that it's brought up some interesting.
Against? Shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. Item 18.1 are our accounts for payment for the month ending 31st of March. Are there any questions on any of the S. Wood? Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor S. Wood? Anybody wish to speak against? Shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. Item 18.2 is propose disposal of part of a reserve and lot in De Hare Road, Wandie, by way of a licence to the Magineup Equestrian Centre. Is there any further? Wood, seconded to Councillor Rouse. Councillor Wood, do you wish to speak on the item?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. When I've read through this, they've had a licence for a number of years. So all we're doing is re-licensing it for the next 3 with a possible 3 after that. So I think I would recommend that this be passed.
Thank you, with the annual increase. Thank you, Councillor Rouse.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Fully in favour of this motion. Valuable centre in Kwinana and value to the region as well. So, urge my other councillors to vote as well in favour.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak? Item 18.3 is the repeal of the Town of Kwinana bylaw relating to signs and bill posting. And we did have a comprehensive memo circulated during the week as well. Are there any questions?
Bylaw.
Who's absent?
And this is that it's a redundant piece of bylaw that we don't really use. As part of the small business collective is when they were going through looking at what is one of the impediments for business bylaw that relates to this.
That was the
Yeah.
item. Thank you. Anything further? Thank you. Do we have a mover? I've already moved it. You moved it. Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. There is nothing in item 19, 20, 21. Item 22 are the reports of elected members. Deputy Mayor.
Just briefly, Your Worship, I attended the Senior Citizens meeting, it was last week. which was delayed due to the facility being broken into. I believe some damage was done, but the people that broke in only stole $50 worth of small change or something along those lines. Have since been replaced, and they also engaged a local artist whose name I forget to do an additional mural around the other side of the senior citizens.
Side that's being put up. There's another one on the
So
outside.
there's a new one on the outside, on the kind of walkway up, and some sections. So if you go past, you'll see exactly.
Yeah, I was in.
And it's a very, very like high quality
lovely.
mural. So I believe it was a local artist that did it.
Outside or the inside. But thank you for that clarification. Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Undertook the duties required in my position of office, and also had the pleasure before the mid-morning Anzac Day service to have a tour of the artwork on the Senior Citizens Centre, have a bit of a look as well, and give a bit of an opinion on that piece. And it's a very a good quality piece of artwork that hopefully is going to be a lasting impression and represents Kwinana. And there's
Quite of me. I've also, on your behalf, attended the Leader Primary School for Anzac Day, which was, I should have mentioned it in the last meeting, but I forgot. And also, so that was very good. It ran a bit late, but it was all right. And also 400 or 500 people there. You were there as well. I spoke to you, and it was, and the other councillors, by the way, that were there. Councillor Rouse, Mr Brown, Councillor how well it went.
Can I just ask, in relation to the Leader Primary School event you attended, was there a wreath there to be laid from the City of Kwinana?
There was, yes, yes.
great.
I asked, rather than me giving it, that I asked that they have a young lady and gentleman to lay it for me.
That's great.
They like that.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Nothing to report, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on Monday, it was a real privilege to attend the city's Anzac Day services at the City of Kwinana War Memorial in Medina, commemorating the Australian and New Zealand citizens who have given their lives as part of our military, all walks of life coming together for this important occasion. I would like to acknowledge and thank the Kwinana RSL, the Rotary Club of Kwinana, the city and all of our volunteers for hosting Anzac Day successfully for another year, especially in light of the challenges brought about by the pandemic that organisers and volunteers have had to properties. Driving to the dawn service myself, I saw quite a lot of residents preparing their driveways with flags, poppies, lights and candles. So it was great to see this tradition that was popularised during the pandemic still continuing on and making Anzac Day more accessible than ever to our residents and the broader community. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Councillor Eswood.
I always have to follow. I've performed all those duties performed there and attended several meetings.
Oh, sorry, could you turn on the mic?
I thought I had. The Citizens Advice Bureau meeting along with yourself, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kearney.
Nothing more than anybody else. Attended the Anzac Day.
To those they're tabled, I'd just like to reiterate very eloquent dawn service. The mid-morning was a little bit quieter. Talking to the Rotary Club of Kwinana, who did the community breakfast, they said in the vicinity of 500 breakfasts were requested. They also, of course, the City of Kwinana provided funding for the event through our Kwinana Community Grant. And both organisations are very appreciative of the assistance provided by the City of Kwinana staff in bringing this event together. Of the other events, I'd just like to raise the fact that with our zone meeting on Tuesday, in attendance was our newly appointed President of Walga, Karen Chappell, who encouraged delegates to attend this year's National Assembly of Local Government in Canberra, and should I say who encouraged councillors. The Assembly is being convened in June, and this year there's a large number of motions to be considered from Western Australia. For those who, for myself, have been to the National Assembly in the past, it is very eastern state centric, but it seems that given the amount of motions that have come from Western Australia, it might be a good opportunity for any councillors who've never been to a National Assembly to take that opportunity to, whilst they're a sitting council, to go over and be part of our peak conference for councillors within Australia. It's also shortly after the federal elections, so it might be an opportunity to do any lobbying or meet any of the new politicians or the old ones, depending on which way the elections go. Finally, I'd just like to, and I had alluded before, that I'd recently been advised that the Kwinana Police Station OIC, Anthony Thompson, has transferred from Kwinana. He's actually OIC now of the Grand Crime Squad in Perth. And until the newly appointed OIC starts, the station's now under the charge of Acting Senior Sergeant Kevin Beard, and Kevin and his officers were both at the dawn service and the mid-morning service and took the opportunity to come over and introduce himself. He is currently a detective at Kwinana. Senior Sergeant Thompson advised me before he left that it had been a pleasure working with the City of Kwinana over the past 3 years, and our support for the Kwinana Police have been greatly appreciated. And further, the team at the City of Kwinana have always been professional and committed to helping the community. And thanking you for creating a strong working relationship with your team and Kwinana Police. So it's been a pleasure also working with Senior Sergeant Thompson. Any issues that we've had, quite a few emails I used to get from the community where people, there are police matters, I would refer them on to Sergeant Thompson or Senior Sergeant Thompson, and he would attend to them. So he's also, we wish him all the best in his new role. So those are my announcements. We have no confidential items, and therefore I do declare the meeting closed at 6:02. Thank you very much for your attendance.